Alright, so in this video we're going to be doing some of the face-up neck, arm, and shoulder routine today. So first I just want to demonstrate how we're going to drape her arms. Now most of the time your clients are going to take their arms out from under the sheets anyways, but if you need to do that yourself, then this is how we're going to do it. So I just rest my hand here on her shoulder, which is going to pin the drape to her shoulder, and I'm going to take the edge and I just want to fan fold it back until I can get towards her arm. And I'll just take her arm, slide it out to the side this way. That way it doesn't pull the drape up with it as I move out. And then I'm just going to lift her arm up, take that edge of the drape, and just tuck it right underneath her armpit there. And that's going to keep it locked into position. Now, if you need to undo the drape, then I'll want to just pull that down. I'm going to take her arm out to the side, and I just pull the drape over and just stick her arm back in. So that's pretty simple, pretty easy. So I'm just going to go ahead and drape her arms real quick so we can have that all set up for our later part of the routine. And of course, if your client's cold, you can just have their arms stay underneath the drape there. So when I'm ready to begin, I'm just going to place my hands on my client's shoulders. I just want to gently cup her shoulders using the palm of my hand. And I want to just kind of hook and cradle right here on that acromion process of the scapula, just making sure that I'm not like pressing too hard into the bones. And I just want to do this compression technique, this alternating compression technique, and just push those shoulders away. And you can see her head starting to stretch. And this is a great opportunity to see if there's like any tension over one side or the other. So you can see how it's a little tighter on this side, like her head isn't moving as much, but you can see I can push this side down a lot more. So it's a little bit more stiffer on this side here. So we're gonna come in with some petrissage here. We're doing this duck pincer petrissage. Just gonna pinch, and so basically just kind of like this, like a little little duck or little puppet shadow dog, just pinching and grabbing and pulling back. So we're doing our duck pincer motion, and so you'll notice that this part of the routine is going to not require any lotion, just because this is usually what I would do to walk up towards the face and do my face and scalp massage, because I don't want to do face and scalp work with lotion on my hand. So I will typically avoid that. So next I'm going to move into the neck. I'm going to curl my fingers right there alongside the spinous process and work right into the sides of the neck, right in towards the lamina groove. So all I'm doing is just having my fingers and hand cupped and curled like this. I just place them where I need them to be in the neck, and you can notice that I'm leaning my body in and out to generate that motion. I'm not sitting here doing this with my fingers and getting my fingers tired, and you know the muscles on my forearm tired here. So just making these circles, and I'm slowly moving up towards the base of the skull. And as I get to that base of the skull, that suboccipital ridge, you'll feel that, you know, little just shelf there where the suboccipital muscles are. I'm just going to lift her head. As you can see, I lifted her head, and I'm just cradling her head. So kind of like this, like I'm holding my hands out for, you know, some offerings or, you know, begging or something like that. And I'm just going to place my fingers right there under that skull and just let the weight of her head fall into position, and just get that work right there. And this is a really tender spot. You know, it doesn't take much pressure for them to really feel the benefit of this, and it's usually a really good spot to work. Most clients really prefer it, and there's a lot of benefit there for your clients. So after I would be done with this technique, I would move into doing the face massage. I like to do the face first before I do the scalp, because I don't want to get oils from the scalp onto their face. So I'd normally do the face first, but we'll do that in another video. So what I'm gonna do is just do like a filibuster technique, come back to my little pinching petrissage while I get just a little bit of lotion, warm it up in my hands, I'm going to do this heart-shaped effleurage. Now, as long as I have permission from her to work her chest, I'm going to come from the chest, swipe over, come underneath the shoulders, and work the neck here. So just getting the entire neck and décolleté lotioned up here. And so you can see when I come underneath the neck, I'm kind of like pulling it like a rope just to get that lotion there. So then I'm going to, with a little bit more lotion, so now that I got my glide, we can do some gliding techniques. And my first gliding technique is I'm going to take my fist, and I have my knuckles down on the table. I'm going to come right up underneath her trap. I'm just going to glide that fist out. You can see how I'm just kind of turning that fist on the spot, coming out just before I feel that bone. So if you want to like zoom in here and see the, you want to get a little closer, as you can see like where my hand is. It's kind of like, I call it like a little puppy dog trying to get under the covers here, just right under that trap and just gliding right on out towards the edge of the shoulder. And of course I'm going to do that with both hands. So I can do both hands at the same time, or I can alternate hands by doing this little sliding motion. So notice the body mechanics in the stool. So what I'm doing is I'm shifting the stool back and forth. Now the big key thing here is to protect your knees. So what I'm doing is I'm not pulling with my leg like this, because that would hurt my knee. What I'm doing is I'm pushing with this leg. So pushing myself away side to side to kind of generate that motion to try to take out as much effort in the shoulders and arms as I can. So with this technique, we're just gliding, little fist glide on the shoulders here. Then when I get towards the outer side of the shoulder blade itself here, I'm going to turn my hands up. I'm going to glide my knuckles straight back right along the back of the neck, essentially in the same spot we were doing that circular friction technique, and gliding right on up. So I like to make this like V. So if we get this V, I can just kind of have their neck nest and just pull straight back like that. But sometimes if I don't have the ability to be under the neck like that, I just use these few fingers to make my contact as I pull back. Now you can see I get a little bit close as I have to kind of pull. Use a little effort here in the arms to pull that neck back a little bit. So I'm going to get a little bit more lotion. I'm going to come underneath her back. So you can see her chest is lifting up as I'm getting underneath her back. I'm going to curl my fingers up. You can see how she lifts up a little bit. And I'm going to pull all the way to the base of that skull. I call this the body wave, because it looks like the crowd thing where everybody stands up in sequence and it looks like a giant wave going by. So you can see her chest is lifting, and now it's starting to lower as I come towards her neck, and her neck starts lifting while that chest finally lowers, and now her head's lifting as her neck lowers. So it's just like this wave action as I'm gliding up the entire upper back here. So hitting that wave, we're just pulling straight back. You know, I'll probably do that 3 to 5 different times. And so my hand would look like this, just curled, just very similar to the way we had done the circular friction. Now, sometimes if I can get my hands underneath, you can relax. See a little stiff there. I can get my hands underneath and I can just rest my fists and kind of just get a big stretch in their upper body there. You can see that her chest is opening up a little bit and her SCM is stretching out. And I'll just kind of wrench my forearms as I slide and then just kind of cradle her head back down. So what I did there, and I'll show you another example of that, is I just placed my fist right here. And usually my thumb would be me making contact for the technique there right under her back. So after I did my wave, and you know, if I wanted to add this fist technique, I'm going to do this pin and stretch on the neck here. So I curl my fingers in right here to the side of the neck, and I'm going to push her shoulder away. And you can see how there's a stretch in those muscles. It's going to hit the trapezius, it's going to hit the levator scapula. And so I can add in what would be a pin and glide as I push this away. And then I want to do the lower end. So right now we're kind of pin and stretching the upper end of the neck here. So now I want to pin and stretch the lower end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch that trap, and I'm just going to cup her head and just bring her chin towards her shoulder. And then I'll slowly release, and I'll just keep pinning and stretching out that muscle here. So I can even use my thumb to kind of strip it out and do like a pin and glide on the lower end of that trap as I move her head. And just press that away. So of course what I would do is repeat that on the other side. So just to balance her out, I'm just going to repeat that real quick. This is a really good technique. Clients really enjoy this one here. It can be a little intense and it can definitely be a little intimidating, you know, turning the head. So my next technique is, since I already have the head and neck moving, is I want to lift her head up, and I'm going to bring her chin to her chest. Now, it's up to you, you know, how you feel about it. You know, obviously cross-contamination is a big consideration, but sometimes I like to just rest my client's head right here on my belly. That way, you know, I have my hands free and I can start doing this like rope pull technique. So my hands are curled like this and my fingertips are pressing into the side of the neck and just kind of stripping it out. I could also take my thumb and just strip right down the back of the neck and really get this muscles worked in a nice stretch position. Anytime a muscle's in a stretch position, you know, and you apply a little bit of work, it really intensifies that work. So you actually wouldn't need as much pressure sometimes. So just nice light glides there as we work it down. Now as I bring her head back down, I'm going to come into what I call the golf tee technique. So just like a golf ball rests on a tee, I'm going to have my fingers pinched like this. I'm going to basically pinch the base of her skull. So basically right here, if you can see that, just pinching the back of that skull. And I'm going to rest the suboccipital ridge right there and just let the weight of her head kind of fall back. And I'm going to gently just rotate and just move her head around on that position. Just these very subtle capital movements here of the skull to just kind of, you know, work my hands into place. And then I'll just slowly let my client's head back down. And I like to add a little bit of traction, cervical traction. So there's a few ways in order to do this. Something as simple as just holding and cupping the head and pulling it back, making sure that when I pull her head back that her chin isn't tucking like that too excessively, or her chin isn't coming up too excessively. I want her head to be neutral as I pull straight towards me. So sometimes I like to just brace with my forearm, the forehead there, and pull back. Now some clients I have, they want me to tear their head off. And so if we really want to get extra traction, I'm just going to place my hand right here under her chin. Not too much pressure, and just pull her straight back towards me. You can see that the whole, everything was starting to shift there, even the sheets were moving there. So as I get that head into traction, I just like to push that shoulder away. I'm going to swap hands, and I'll hit that traction one more time. And then just push that shoulder away. So the next thing I want to do is I can use my headrest cover as a extra little cushion. So a little extra use out of your headrest cover than just holding your client's face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it already looks like one of those little neck pillows you'd wear when you're on a plane. So I'm going to take the edge right here, the rounded part, and I'm going to press it down and place it right under her back and just bring her head to the side into this, lateral flexed and rotated position. And that's going to open up this side of the neck for me to work into the area. So I'm going to start with just getting some of that more petrissage right here in the area. So it's same technique, but again, it's going to feel a little different because now we have a stretched position. So now that we have her head turned here, I do have access to the mastoid process here, and I'm just going to lightly thumb strip right there around the mastoid process. The mastoid process is a big bump right here. Don't be too far forward behind the ear like that. That's a no spot. It's going to be, your client will hate you because it's going to be super uncomfortable, but it's also a endangerment zone there. So I'm just going to thumb strip, just be mindful of any of the little hairs here. A lot of muscle attachment here. We have the SCM coming back here, and then even if we go out a little further, the trapezius attaches there, and there's lots of other muscles. So stripping there. Then I'll just need a little bit more lotion for my next technique, which is going to be fist glides. So with her neck in that turned position, I'm just going to glide my fist back and forth, again using that same motion with the stool, gliding back and forth, just getting that side of the neck. And after a few of these glides, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook right into that neck, right into the base of the skull there. I'm going to do this cross arm push and stretch out the neck. So then I'll come through, do a few more repetitions of the glide just to kind of warm it up, and then boom, merge right into that stretch again. So in this position too, we're going to see that there's the SCM to work, and we can also get the scalenes. Now, this is just a basic demonstration for entry-level students. So working the scalenes, it's going to take time for you to, one, get comfortable with, and two, actually learn what you're feeling and how to actually access them. So to just be general, I just kind of like you're trying to push an envelope across the table. That much amount of pressure, very little pressure is needed. And I'm just going to glide right here behind the SCM, right towards that collarbone. And to just keep my fingers broad and do this kind of myofascial little pull here. And so I'll just kind of pull in both directions, little myofascial work there. So then I would want to repeat on the other side. So how am I going to transfer? One, I'm just going to place her head right here in my hand, and I'm just going to lift the side of the cushion up. That's going to lift her head right into my hand, and then I would just swap to the other side to repeat. So we'll save time on repeating and just get into the next techniques. All right, so if I still plan to use my cushion later, I like to just rest it right there on my knees. That way I can always have it here. So the next few techniques I would do after I had repeated the turned head techniques on the side, again, I just need another reapplication of my lotion here. One thing I like to do to address the SCM is just this kind of like myofascial pull down here. Just coming right, just gentle from the collarbones here, the clavicles, and just pulling straight down. Definitely able to work a little bit into the chest. I'm going to curl my fingers and just strip along the collarbone. And I'll slowly start working my way towards the drape, just getting the clavicular head of the pec as much as I can here. It's about as much as we'll be able to work with our female clients. So when I'm ready, I'm going to come to the side here, and I'm going to start working into the neck and the shoulder and make our way into the arm. So my first technique is I want to come underneath, just give it a little more lotion, come underneath her back. So I just kind of lifted her shoulder up, and then boom. And I'm going to curl my fingers, very similar to how we did that wave technique. I'm just going to curl my fingers right there, positioned next to her spine. I'm going to pull out towards her shoulder blade. And you can see that her shoulder kind of gets pulled out a little bit with me. Now that one technique we did do with the fists when we were doing the wave is one I really like to do here. So now I can just kind of lift her shoulder up, and then boom, I can place my fist right under, and I'll just press that shoulder down to kind of stretch that pec out, and puts a little extra pressure on the back muscles there. And then I can just use my forearm to kind of turn her head to put her neck into a little bit of a stretch in this position. So I'm just going to slowly let her shoulder come down. I'm just going to gently strip the pectoral muscle here and just glide right back out. So now I want to take her arm. I'm going to lace my arm with hers. So resting her arm right here on my forearm and grabbing onto her arm here, so that way I have control. I want to grab and just traction, pull that down. So you can see I'm getting a little stretch, and I can even see that her head is turning and rotating here. So you can see that she's getting a little stretch, a little head movement in. So when I pull her down, I can turn her head and get a little extra stretch that way. So I'll start pulling, just a gentle traction on the arm, and push her head out to the side. And I can even do a pin and stretch here. So as I pinch right here in that muscle, I just pull the arm down, just pin and pull just like that. Nice and easy. So that's going to hit that trapezius muscle there. Now if I want to hit the levator attaches to that superior angle of the shoulder blade here, and I'm just going to find that superior angle. I'm going to press right up into it. I'm actually going to bring her arm slightly overhead, because as that arm comes overhead, it's going to rotate that scapula upward, which is going to start to stretch out that levator, and I can really hit that levator into a stretch, and then I can just turn her head, and that way it's really going to get that muscle into a stretch, and I can just press right into it, hit that levator scapula there. So I'm going to come back out. I'm going to rest her head back neutral. We can work into the shoulder here, work into the arm and shoulder. Oops, sorry. So usually at this point I'd like to stand, but you can stay seated. So I'm going to start gliding up and just kind of follow the curves of the deltoid muscles here. Just gliding over, kind of doing a bit of, that ocean wave petrissage, just kind of squeezing and wringing out those deltoids. So just kind of pulling the back of that deltoid, a little push-pull, cupping action. But then I can work the anterior delt. Anterior delt definitely, it's a little tighter than the rest of the deltoids. So I'm going to take her arm off to the side, and I can use her arm to kind of control getting like a pin and stretch here. So just kind of see how that muscle is moving again under my pressure there as I'm just pressing in, and just put that into a little stretch as I can kind of push, pull, use the weight of my body. See, I don't have to actually squeeze to do this petrissage. So this is, I call lazy petrissage. So what I do is my hand's resting, and I just press my hand down, And my pressure actually collapses my hand to create that pressure there. Then I'll be able to work into the actual arm here, starting with a little bit of lotion, a little bit of glide action here. Just gliding up with my palms. I can even do a pin and stretch here. Again, put the muscle in contraction and stretch that muscle out. I love pin and stretch. I love to incorporate that movement, that lengthening action, lengthening and contraction action of the muscle along with my glides and my technique. Again, I can do that lazy man's petrissage in there. And just being a little mindful of where exactly I am with my pressure. I don't want to be on the inner arm. There's blood vessels running through there. And I can work right into the forearm. So again, just a little bit of lotion application. And I'm just gliding down. So just start with gliding, stripping on the forearm here. You know, I try not to use my thumbs a lot, and you know, I definitely recommend not using your thumbs too much, but thumbs just work very well here in this area. But it's not to say you have to. I could definitely like to take my stool sometimes, and unfortunately the stool does not come all the way, but sometimes your stool is able to come up a little bit higher. You know, sometimes if even then it still doesn't make it, but you could use your stool normally as an extension of your table if your stool comes high enough, and you can rest your client's arm onto it and just be able to get that backing pressure. But if not, I can always just kind of brace her forearm here and just glide. So that gives me that backing surface here to apply a little pressure with my glides. And of course, I'll work the back of the forearm here. A little bit of glide action. Just stripping it out right towards those condyles. And again, I can even add a pin and stretch here by gliding in and just, so this would be her wrist extensors. So I'm going to put her wrist into flexion as I glide on these muscles. Then I like to do this praying hand petrissage. So I'm just going to curl, interlace my fingers, and squeeze my hands together and just pull back. So one hand on the front of the forearm, one hand on the back of the forearm, and just pulling right out towards her hand. We can start with a little hand massage. And I'm going to strip around the thumb, a little thumb stripping right here on the web of the hand. And just stripped right there around that thumb, just a little bit more. Again, I can even do a little pin and stretch, a little range of motion with that thumb. People really like to get a little work around their thumbs, especially if you're a massage therapist. It's really nice. So I'm going to do a little traction and rotation on the fingers here. Now you could do one finger at a time, but just to save time, I like to double it up, do both. Yeah, never hurt anybody. Might just repeat it since we're going a little quicker there. So next thing I can do is hold these fingers down. I like to do this little knuckle roll. It's kind of like you're tapping your fingers. I'm just rolling my knuckles right there on the palm, especially right there around the thumb and around her knuckles themselves, right here around these knuckles right here. And I can kind of just scrape it there, just kind of knuckle scrape. Just glide my knuckles right there in the palm of that hand. So we can do a little wrist range of motion here. Now I like to interlace my hand for this. And I'll just be, people can already be a little off-put about hand work, because you're touching their hand, especially when you're coming in. Don't be ill-confident with it and be all nervous. So nice interlace firm, and then come right into your technique. So I can kind of just rotate the wrist, get a little rotation in the wrist, a little extension in the wrist, a little flexion in the wrist here, just getting the cardinal movements of the wrist here. A little pronation, supination at that wrist there. And then while I still have her fingers laced, I'm going to interlace my fingers, cup her hand. You see how I got her hand cupped here and protected? I'm just going to lift it straight up and just traction all the way through all those joints and just let it slowly back down. So now I'm ready to come into some stretches. So my first stretch could be, a repeat of what we already did, traction in the shoulder here. So just kind of cupping that shoulder, pulling that shoulder down, and getting a little stretch right there into the trapezius muscle. Then I want to take her arm out to the side. I'm just going to make sure that she stays well covered and feels well protected. And we're going to stretch out the pecs a little bit. Now, it's not as great of a stretch since I could have her slide to the edge of the table and I could hang her arm off further, but just for sakes of not having her move and everything, I'll just keep her right here. So now I can actually work the chest with a little bit more stretch here. So I can actually work right through and glide right on up. Again, I can add a pin and stretch. So come in, stretch it out. And sometimes when I have the arm in this position, I do like to come to the other side of the table and I'll work right across on that pectoral muscle and just hit that chest. And you can see I'm just staying at the edge of the drape as much as I'll, normally do with my clients. Should they keep their chest covered? Obviously my female clients will always keep their chest covered, but with our gentlemen, we do have the ability to work further down on the chest. So to enhance this stretch, what we can do to add is I can just take her hand and put it into put her wrist into extension, fingers in extension. That's going to really just drive out a nice deep stretch, and I'll just kind of give this very, very light level 1-ish pressure, just pulling, just kind of get that fascia to stretch out. Then I'm going to take her arm overhead. When I do this, I want to pull the drape up, because what I'm about to do will cause her to shift up on the table. And I don't want her to feel like the drape is going to, or she's going to come out of the drape. So I'm going to grab onto her arm, nice and secure. I'm just going to pull straight up. So you can see that we're actually getting a little stretch on those lats as we're pulling straight up. And then I can just kind of let that arm hang here, and I can work the triceps. So I can glide on the triceps. I can even hit a little petrissage on the triceps in that stretched position. So then what I would do is take her arm across her chest here. I'm just going to start by pulling, and you can see that her shoulder is starting to lift. And when that shoulder starts lifting, if she has the range of motion, I can come in, hook that shoulder, and pull her even a little bit further. And at that point, I'll let her arm go. You can relax that. And then boom. Now I can pull and work her shoulder here, work right in between those shoulder blade muscles, and get a nice little bit of rotation. Clients really like this technique. And I can even add extra rotation. I can find her hip bone here and just press and roll her and stretch her out here. Ooh, I heard one. So of course we're not forcing any chiropractic manipulations, but things want to do what they want to do, they're going to do it, right? So just a little rotational force pushing her out. And then I'm going to keep that drape tight to her chest there, as I slowly let her body weight just roll her back, place her hand on her belly, and then boom, I would be right here ready to start working on this side. And then I would just run through all of my arm and shoulder techniques. The only problem is, don't forget to bring your stool with you for this if you happen to need it or use it. So then boom, here we are, we're working right into all of our techniques, working that shoulder pull. Now, if you wanted some extra stuff, thanks. If you wanted some extra stretch techniques, you know, usually my finisher would be, I'll take both hands up, again, pull my drape up so she feels nice and covered. And I can do 2 arm stretches, and you can see definitely a big pull. I'm gonna place her hands in the palms of the hands. I'm gonna help her hair up. I'm gonna say, can you lift your head up? Place your hands right under there. Call this the beach goer pose. And I'm just going to press down. I'm just gonna stretch out the pecs. And even in this position, you know, I'm still able to work the pecs a little bit in that stretch position, you know, as long as they're comfortable with that. And then sometimes with this too, I like to add a little bit of lean, where I'll just have to take one arm out. I'm gonna take one hand here, and let's actually take both arms out. I'm gonna hold here and press into this shoulder and turn her. So now you can see that her body is in this curved, in like the yoga pose, like the banana pose, looking like a banana. So we're actually putting the, you know, quadratus lumborum into a stretch, putting the latissimus dorsi muscle into a stretch. Some nice stuff there. And then usually I'm pretty vulgar or violent with getting my client back. I'll just come to this side and just give her a little pull, and she's back center. So, and that's a basic, easy, introductory face up, supine, neck, shoulder, and arm routine there. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something, and we'll have some more advanced techniques in another video.